What's going on, guys? Matthew back again, this time for a TV review. Today we're reviewing The Penguin on HBO Max. Let's get into it.
This city is meant to be yours, sweetheart. What are you gonna do to get it?
Let's start with the plot. This show picks up where the Batman left off, with the Gotham City being flooded. The Penguin sees it as an opportunity, now that Carmine Falcone is dead, and he decides to go back to the Iceberg Lounge to find some jewels and dirt on politicians, where he runs into Alberto Falcone. It's at this meeting that the Penguin makes a very impulsive decision that really drives forward not only this season of the show, but according to the showrunners, the entire series. It's after this decision made by the Penguin that he runs into Victor, a kid outside who's with other kids trying to rob the tires from Penguin's vehicle. They form an unlikely friendship, and he moves on to help the Penguin in his endeavors. Victor moves forward with Penguin as we meet other members of the Falcone family, as well as Sal Maroni. We also get a glimpse at the Penguin's childhood, and we get to meet his mother, giving us a better perception of the Penguin's life and why he is the way he is today. It's at this moment that the Penguin decides to climb up the ladder of the underworld and try to rule it himself. Initially, I was worried about the inclusion of the Victor character. I wasn't sure if I was going to like him or find him annoying, but he actually does help to serve the plot and move the story forward. It's after this meeting with his mother that he devises a plan to pit the Falcones and the Maronis against one another in an effort to take over the underworld of Gotham. The episode ends with his plan coming to fruition, and the first domino falls in his effort to take over the underworld. I have to give the plot a 9 out of 10. My only issue was I wasn't very sure with how quickly Penguin took to Victor and trusting him with very vital information. Let's move to the writing. My only issue with the writing really is, like I mentioned before, Penguin trusting Victor with very vital information. And we're also introduced to the character of Sophia Falcone. This is Carmine Falcone's daughter and the sister of Alberto Falcone. And my only problem with the writing with her character is that her character and the Penguin go to have a dinner. And it's at this dinner that I found the writing to be very exposition heavy and explaining who her character is and what her nickname is. It felt very forced and didn't meet the quality of the rest of the writing of this episode. There's one particular moment where they decide to move a body during the day, which I found to be kind of stupid considering the fact that they had time to do it during the night, but they chose to sit by a fire and eat burgers instead and waste that nighttime, and then ultimately move the body during the day. I found that to be a very strange decision. I have to give the writing an 8 out of 10. Let's move to the cinematography. All in all, it's very good. It matches that same aesthetic that the Batman had, with the very orange colors. Now, obviously, that's not something you can do all the time. At some points in Gotham, the sun does have to shine brightly. So sometimes it can look a little strange having a very well-lit afternoon compared to the rest of the very orange and dark colors that are found in Gotham. My biggest problem with the way the show looks is at the very beginning, when we're seeing different news broadcasts of what happened in the previous movie. And there's one shot in particular with the mayor of Gotham, and it's very apparent that the background is CGI. I have to give the cinematography a 9 out of 10. Let's move to the acting. This show has various well-known actors that you've probably seen before. Obviously, you have Colin Farrell starring as the Penguin, and he's absolutely fantastic. You can't even tell it's him. Obviously, he's wearing a fat suit, so you can't tell physically, but with his voice and his performance, you can't tell at all. I found myself completely forgetting that it was Colin Farrell, and I was just watching the Penguin. We also have Clancy Brown as Sal Maroni, and it's a very welcoming sight to see him back. Clancy Brown is most well known as the bad guy in Highlander. He was also in Pet Sematary 2 and also as the terrible prison guard in Shawshank Redemption. He's been in various things over the years, and I'm very happy to see that he's playing Sal Maroni, and he does give a good performance. Sophia Falcone is played by Kristen Milioti. She's most well known as the mother in How I Met Your Mother, and she turns in a very good performance as Sophia Falcone. She plays a crazy person who's just got out of Arkham, and she does a really good job with her eyes, and you can never tell if she's about to have an emotional breakdown and freak out on somebody. She does a really good job in this show. Then you have Deidre O'Connell, who plays Frances, who is the Penguin's mother. She turns in a good performance as well. You completely buy that this is the Penguin's mother, and she sells exactly why the Penguin is the man that he is. And then last but not least, you have Renzi Feliz as Victor Aguilar. He's the character I mentioned earlier, the kid that Penguin kind of adopts and takes on as his protege or his sidekick. What's so interesting about his introduction is that he's found trying to steal the tires from the Penguin's car, which is very similar to how Batman met Jason Todd, who turned out to be the second Robin. Jason Todd was trying to steal the wheels off the Batmobile when Batman met him. When I first met this character, I was worried that he was going to be annoying and that the actor wouldn't be able to keep up with all the other actors in the show, but I'm happy to report that he does in fact keep up. I think that Renzi does a very good job playing Victor, who is a very disillusioned youth who really doesn't have his head on straight and doesn't really have a good role model. Unfortunately for him, his role model is now the Penguin, which probably isn't going to turn out well for that character. I have to give the acting a 10 out of 10. It was very well done. And finally, the pace. This episode is an hour long, and there's not a moment wasted. Every scene is purposeful to where we inevitably end up in the end of this episode. I never found the episode to be dragging, and I was never bored for a second. I have to give the pace a 10 out of 10. All in all, I have to give this episode a 9.2 out of 10. I was very satisfied with it, and I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this season and the rest of this series. And I highly recommend watching it. I think it's worth your time and worth your subscription to Max. As a longtime Batman fan, it's very interesting to see all these characters used. If you've never read The Long Halloween or Dark Victory, you'll recognize these characters very much if you read those comic books. And I do recommend reading those two comic books as they're very good. They're very detective oriented and they use all of these characters very well. It's cool to see all these characters brought to the screen and used in a very good way. But anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on this episode. Did you watch it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.